Hey everyone, welcome back to the Deep Dive. We're diving into some pretty interesting stuff today, stuff you definitely want to know about if you're interested in getting to the bottom of things quickly and efficiently.
Yeah, and today we're talking about something pretty close to home for a lot of people, I think. Sugar.
Sugar, yes. Specifically, how Coca-Cola tried to change the way we think about sugar and its effects on our health.
And we've got some great material for this deep dive. It's a report from the Union of Concerned Scientists. They really did a deep dive on this, pun
Yeah,
intended.
I was going to say that. But yeah, so what are we really trying to understand here today?
Well, a couple things. We're going to explore the tactics that Coca-Cola used, right? How did they try to shape the scientific narrative? And then, and this is really key, why this matters for you. Because this isn't just about sugary drinks. It's about the integrity of science itself. And that affects all of us.
Right, because we rely on science to make informed decisions about, everything. Our health, our environment, our policies. Exactly. So let's jump right in, shall we? I think that the core issue here is this. There's a growing body of scientific evidence that shows that eating too much sugar is bad for you. I mean, this isn't really news, is it?
No, I don't think so. I mean, we all kind of know that too much sugar isn't good.
Right. And so Coca-Cola, a company that, sells sugary drinks, they weren't exactly thrilled about this growing consensus. And so what they did is they started funding efforts to cast doubt on that link, the
Yeah.
link between sugar and negative health outcomes.
So trying to muddy the waters a bit, make it less clear cut. And how did they go about doing that? I mean, how do you even start to influence something as big as scientific research?
Well, according to this report, they had a couple of different approaches. The
Yeah.
first one, they started in 2004 with something called the Beverage Institute for Health and Wellness.
The Beverage Institute for Health and Wellness. Now that sounds pretty official, pretty legitimate.
It does, doesn't it? It had a website. It had, all the trappings of a legitimate research institution. But, and this is where things get interesting, the information they were putting out there, it was, it was carefully curated, let's say.
Curated in what way?
Well, they would emphasize the positive aspects of their beverages, right? Like hydration. They provide energy. They kind of skipped over or even downplayed any of the negative stuff, the links to obesity, type 2 diabetes, heart disease, all of that.
So it's like, when you see a movie trailer and they only show you the good parts, the exciting parts, you don't get the full picture.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
if you went to their website, you might come away thinking, well, these drinks are just providing basic needs like hydration. What's the big deal? And this went on for a while.
Until when? Did this institute just disappear?
Well, the report says it stopped operating in 2016. But here's the thing. It didn't really go away. It just got, more secretive, actually.
More secretive. What does that even mean? How do you make something like that more secretive?
Well, instead of having this very public-facing institute, they started funding research programs directly at universities.
So giving money to scientists to do research, isn't that a good thing?
It can be. But the problem here is that they were using this funding to push a specific agenda. And by doing it through universities, they were leveraging the reputation and authority of those institutions.
Ah, so it's like, hey, if a university behind this research, it must be credible. And the report gives us the specific example of this, right?
It does. In 2015, Coca-Cola donated $1 million to the University of Colorado Foundation. And this led to the creation of the Global Energy Balance Network.
Global Energy Balance Network sounds very impressive, very scientific.
It does, doesn't it? And their stated goal, what they told the public, was that they wanted to provide a forum for scientists to generate knowledge to end obesity. Sounds great, right?
Yeah, it does. Who wouldn't want to end obesity?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the problem was that wasn't really their main goal. According to the report, Coca-Cola's real goal was to shift the focus away from what we eat and drink, calorie intake, portion sizes, all of that. They wanted to focus on exercise as the primary solution for weight loss.
So basically saying, don't worry about that sugary drink. Just go for a run and you'll be fine. Convenient.
Right.
Very convenient. And it wasn't just about the money either. Coca-Cola had a lot of influence over this global energy balance network. They were allowed to choose the executives. They helped write the mission statement. They even designed the website. The report actually compares it to a political campaign.
Wow. So it wasn't just, here's some money, do some research.
Mhm.
It was much more hands-on than that. And the scientists involved, were there any any red flags there, any potential conflicts of interest?
Oh, absolutely. Several of the academics involved had previously received funding from Coca-Cola and other food companies.
So the people researching the impact of these products were being paid by the companies making the products. That seems like a pretty big conflict of interest. It is. And the report names one person specifically, James O'Hill. He was a co-founder and president of the Global Energy Balance Network. And according to the Center for Science and the Public Interest, he had ties to PepsiCo, McDonald's, and the Sugar Association.
Wow. And not just ties, he'd actually received consulting fees from them and from Coca-Cola as well.
Right. And it's not just him. Two other founding members, Dr. Stephen N. Blair and Gregory A. Hand, they had received $4 million in research funds from Coca-Cola before the Global Energy Balance Network even existed.
$4 million. So they were already well funded by Coca-Cola before this whole network thing even started. And what kind of research was this Global Energy Balance Network putting out there? What was their message?
They were using studies that were funded by Coca-Cola to claim that there was strong evidence that weight gain could be prevented by an active lifestyle, even if you ate more calories.
So basically saying, hey, you can have your cake and eat it too, as long as you go for a jog afterwards.
Pretty much. And the report calls this industry-friendly science. And it's a tactic that's used by a lot of industries, not just the food industry.
So they're trying to control the narrative, the way people think about these issues. And did they succeed? Did this Global Energy Balance Network have any real impact?
Well, it's hard to say for sure, but when the network's funding sources and their motives were exposed, Coca-Cola shut it down. They said it was due to resource limitations, but I think we can all read between the lines there.
Right, resource limitations. So why is this so important for us to understand? Why should we care about this?
Well, because it gets to the heart of how we know what we know. Science is supposed to be objective, right? It's supposed to be based on evidence, not on who's funding the research.
Right. And there are safeguards in place to try and ensure that objectivity, right?
Yes, things like peer review, where other scientists evaluate the research before it's published, and double-blind studies, where neither the researchers nor the participants know who's getting what treatment.
But those safeguards, they can be circumvented, can't they? Especially when there's a lot of money involved.
Absolutely, and that's why transparency is so important. We need to know who's funding the research, what
Yeah.
their interests are, so we can evaluate the findings accordingly.
And this isn't just about sugary drinks, is it? This is about all kinds of research, all kinds of industries.
Exactly. Think about pharmaceuticals, think about environmental science, think about climate change. There are powerful interests in all of these areas who might try to influence the research to benefit their bottom line.
So what can we do? What can we as individuals do to make sure that the science we're relying on is actually objective?
Well, first of all, be critical. Don't just accept something because it sounds scientific or because it comes from a reputable source. Ask questions. Who funded the research? What are their interests? Are there any conflicts of interest?
And look for independent sources of information, sources that don't have a vested interest in the outcome.
Right. And support organizations that are fighting for scientific integrity. Organizations like the Union of Concerned Scientists. They're doing really important work to expose these kinds of tactics and to hold those responsible accountable.
So to sum up, Coca-Cola tried to influence the science around sugar and health, and they do it in a way that was, well, pretty sneaky. They funded research that supported their agenda, they gave money to scientists who were already sympathetic to their views, and they tried to control the narrative around these issues.
And this is something that's happening all the time in all sorts of industries. So be critical, ask questions, and demand transparency, because the integrity of science is crucial for all of us.
Absolutely. And on that note, here's something for you to think about. If Coca-Cola was willing to go to these lengths to protect their profits, what other industries might be doing the same thing? What other areas of science might be vulnerable to this kind of influence? It's a question worth pondering. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.